Good day, guys. How are you going? Today we're having a look at the beautiful Panzer II-J. Isn't she just gorgeous? I must admit, guys, she is my favorite tank by far. As always, let's get into the history of this tank. So this tank was initially designed as a reconnaissance tank under the designation VK1601 that could undertake a scouting role while with good maneuverability whilst also protecting its crew. Heavy armor was added to the tank base on the Panzer II, bringing it to protection of 80mm of frontal armor and 50mm of side and rear armor, increasing the tank's weight to a whopping 18 tons. Its top speed was about 28 km per hour, although some people think it was 31 km per hour. In World of Tanks, its model is 31 km per hour, making it effectively useless for scouting. On top of this, it was armed with a 20mm autocannon and a 7.92mm machine gun, which were both incredibly lackluster by the time the tank was implemented. And although this tank was thought to have been mass-produced or was going to be mass-produced, only 6 were ever produced. So let's get on to the top 3 quirks of this tank. It is incomprehensibly well armored with 80mm of frontal armor and no weak spots to be found on the tank anywhere. This tank has more armor than the tier 5 heavy tank, the KV-1. Another quirk is this tank has very great gun handling and depression angles. And not only that, it has very fast gun reload times. You only have to wait a few seconds to not be able to penetrate any tank. Now onto the worst 3 quirks of this tank. Not only is it a heavy tank with armor, I gotta admit its mobility is quite lackluster, as well as this tank really isn't a light tank, it's a heavy tank. I mean, come on. Also, possibly the worst gun tier for tier on any tanks in terms of practicality. You cannot penetrate anything without premium rounds. Anything, like almost anything, I should say. Maybe some tier 1s. If you get into a tier 4 match and all you're carrying is AP rounds, you're not doing anything. And even if you got premium rounds, you're still not doing anything. Sorry about it. And that brings me to my last point. It is literally useless in tier 4 games. Completely. But on to the brand score of this tank, which I think you'll be surprised about. So this tank has a DPM of 1,582.68, giving it a 4 out of 10. Penetration wise, this tank has an amazing penetration of 23mm, giving it a 1 out of 10. Gun handling wise, this tank has a shown dispersion value of 0.57, giving it a 2 out of 5, and a hidden dispersion value of 0.16, giving it a 4 out of 5. Aiming time wise, this tank has an amazing aiming time, I'll give it that, of 1.4 seconds, giving it a very, very solid 10 out of 10. Gun vertical movement wise, this tank has 10 degrees of gun depression, giving it a 3 out of 5, and 20 degrees of gun elevation, giving it a 3 out of 5. Now, survivability is what this tank is renowned and famous for, or should I say, infamous for. It's what makes this tank so damn overpowered. As a result, this tank gets 10 out of 10 for survivability. I'll give it that it's an absolute god for blocking shells, not that you really have to do anything to do it, as I'll show you right now. There are no weak spots on this tank anywhere. When this tank was introduced as an HD model, they made this little cupola smaller and removed these side hatches, which you can see on the visual model if it decides to load up. These hatches here were weak spots, but not anymore, guys. There are no more weak spots, just 50mm of armor, 80mm on the front, plus this 25mm of very, very, very sloped armor, making pretty much anything bounce on it. This tank is just, you can't penetrate it. It is just not fair. There's no other words to describe it. It is just not fair. But anyway, guys, mobility wise, its power to weight ratio is a terrible 8.94, giving it a 2 out of 5. And has an average traverse speed of 36 degrees per second, giving it a 3 out of 5. Now, guys, remember, this is a light tank. View range wise, this tank has a view range of 320 meters, giving it a 7 out of 10. Concealment wise, this tank has a concealment while stationary value of 17.39%, giving it a 7 out of 10. Remember guys, it still is technically a light tank. And value wise, well, how good of a deal this tank is really depends on how it would have been sold. Right now, you can only get this tank if you're willing to spend upwards of 100 Australian dollars more, 100% more, or that would be about, you know, if in euros, it would be like, it would be 100 euros plus, 100 pounds plus, and 100 USD plus. So this tank is very, very expensive. And although you do get it with gold or premium time, and I got this with the 365 days of premium, I was, I guess, lucky, and this tank came around when my 365 days were expiring and I needed to get new premium time, so I got this bundle. I don't know how much I paid, but it was something stupid, but nothing is pretty much the same as paying for 365 days of premium time anyway. But regardless, it is still a really bad tank. Not only does this tank ruin low tier matches, and I've made a video on this in the past, you can check it out. I'll put it in the link down below. But it also has insane armor with a terrible gun. So you'll block every shell coming towards you, but you won't be able to penetrate anyone else unless you are firing premium ammunition, which ruins the value of this tank again, because you just have to spend so many credits playing this game. I was playing this tank yesterday, one game with a mastery badge because it's so bloody overpowered, and it completely destroyed my credits. I have almost no credits because I fired purely premium rounds in this tank, which is what you have to do. And I mean, yeah, you can fire standard rounds, but you're not going to get through anything, and no one's going to get through you. If you're the last tank standing, you're not getting through anybody. Good luck. Especially there's another Panzer IIJ. I remember watching a Jingles video. I think it was a Jingles video, and there was 2 Panzer IIJs left, and they were both just, I think the time ran out in the end. They couldn't destroy each other. But anyway, for all those reasons I just gave, I'm giving this tank a 1 out of 10. For value, of course. But despite the 1 out of 10 for the value, this tank scores a 57 out of 100 because of all of its other values. And if that doesn't show that it's overpowered, I don't know what does. You can see where it sits. If you go to heavilyarmored.com, you can see where it sits in relation to the other 2 tanks I've reviewed using the brand score. And this tank it's ridiculous. Where it sits is absolutely ridiculous. So guys, I have a really quick match for you today. It's on Winters Himmeldorf, and it's really quick because I'm going straight down the 8 line or 7 line, because that's just where this tank should go. I mean, we're in a really good matchup for this tank. It is pretty much a completely tier 2 tank matchup, and yeah, we're not going to have any issues here, as you'll see. So you can see I'm checking out the gun depression here, just because when I was reviewing it, everyone was saying, oh, how great the gun depression is. Yeah, the gun depression is 10 degrees. Cool. Yeah, there's absolutely nothing special. But you can see I just don't give a shit. Oh, look, 5 tanks have popped up in front of us. Who cares? It's not like any of them are going to penetrate us. So I'm just driving forward, because why not? Of course I'm firing premium rounds, because what else should I do? Now, I prioritize the Marder 2 because I know that the Marder 2 probably can get through my front armor if I'm not careful. And it looks like he does, or someone hits me. I'm not even sure he hits me because I'm getting hit so many times. But I take out the Marder 3. Now we're getting hit by artillery, but so far we've blocked 1,159 damage in a minute. It is just so obscene. We're getting through the H-35, which is a really well-armored tank in general, but it does give us our side. And I'm just destroying every tank. I'm tracked. I can't move because artillery keeps hitting me, but it doesn't really matter, does it? I'm almost dead, so at this point I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna die. I set the H-35 on fire, but you know, it's a pretty good game anyway. 740 damage casually, 1,741 damage blocked. But I guess artillery doesn't really seem to want to hit me anymore, so I'm just gonna keep taking shots. In the end, we're on 5 kills, and it's been a minute and a half, guys. A minute and a half, and I've done 5 kills. Artillery misses me, so that's pretty much the end of the game for artillery. They're not gonna be able to hit me around here, I don't think. And I'm being a bit cautious because this VAE might want to fire a high explosive or something, but it doesn't. And for high explosive, it might not do much to my tank anyway. So Don't quite take him out, but I still get a bit of spotting damage in this tank, the light tank. It is a reconnaissance vehicle, so I get 21 spotting damage. Very, very well done. And at this tank, I mean, the game is pretty much over. I'm going to speed it up a little bit because you can see the mobility of this tank it's not actually that terrible. 31 kilometers per hour really isn't that terrible. And we will try and find some tanks. And it looks like we're about to stumble upon an Su-76M who realized his team is completely gone. So why not ruin his day? I think we track him there, but no hope. We take him out. And that is the end of the game. 6 kills. 1,062 damage and 1,943 damage blocked. If that's not insane, I honestly don't know what is, guys. I mean, and now this is a good matchup. If we were in a tier 4 matchup, we would be destroyed because you just can't do anything with this gun. The gun is that bad. But you can see that we probably, like, yeah, we might have won, but I took on 5 enemy tanks and pretty much distracted them for the team, and I think that in this game this tank really carried, despite it barely moved around the battlefield, just went down one area, but you know, it took on all the tanks in that area, and it's just not fair. Just not fair. But that is the main thing about this tank. It's not a fair tank. It's a tank that you get if you want to really make people's lives that much worse. If you really don't like people, get this tank, because you know what, you can really ruin their day, especially if it's a new player, guys. So just keep that in mind. As a quick reminder, guys, if you do want to see your videos or replays featured on my channel, all you have to do is head to heavilyarmored.com, go to the contact section of that page and link me wherever you've put your replay, and I'll go and have a look at it as well, and maybe it could be featured on the channel, so why not? But anyway, guys, on to my results. So we got a Mastery Badge Ace Tanker, a Bruiser, a Demolition Expert, a Duelist, a Fire for Effect, a Shell Proof, a Cool Headed, a Steel Wall, a High Caliber, and a Top Gun. All in all, we pretty much dominated the team. I mean, damage-wise, I got 5 times more than the rest of my team. I got like twice as much, or less, but you know, I got like 25% more damage than all the rest of my team combined, and in the end I got 1,027 experience. I lost 42,000 credits, boo-hoo, and I did 1,062 damage and blocked almost 2,000 damage. Isn't that just absolutely insane? I mean, the battle time was 3 minutes. I think I got, how many, like 6 kills within a minute and a half or something. Absolutely ridiculous. Like, what even is that? What even is that? Anyway, guys, I hope this really kind of showcases to you that this tank is just, it's not a fun tank. You know, a fun tank requires skill. It requires something that you can feel good about, you know, these self-actualization needs. But you don't get that with this tank. You just get a big chunk of steel that can mow over any tank it really comes across at tier 3 and tier 2, and can't do anything against at tier 4. I mean, if you put this thing up against an M3 Lee, the fantastic M3 Lee, this tank wouldn't be able to do anything to it at all. Sides, maybe rear, but you know, it wouldn't do shit against it. And yet I don't know why it's still being sold, honestly. Like, this is clearly the biggest, it is the worst case of money grabbing I've ever seen. I mean, yes, you can buy it in a package with gold or with premium time, and sometimes you need that if you want to do something in the game, but really it's just not fair. It's not a fun tank to play against. It's not a fun tank to play. I don't know why it's still in the game. But anyway, guys, let's head back to the garage so I can give you my final thoughts on this tank. So guys, my final thoughts on this tank are, should you get it? No, you should not get it. I'm going to put it out there. It is not a fun tank. You will not play it very often, most probably, because it's so expensive to run. It's just frustrating, ruins low tier matches. It's stupid. It's something that should not have been re-implemented into World of Tanks, because they only released it in Gamescom, I think 2012, and then they've started recently releasing it with these packages, these crazy packages. It's just not worth it. It is really, really bad. But anyway, guys, thank you so very much for watching. If you did like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new, please. I would love to see you around here more often, and I'll catch you next time.